Hey everyone, how we doing today? This is James Sweeney, aka SplitSuit, and welcome back to another video. And as part of the Ask SplitSuit a Question series, a bunch of people asked hand history questions, and this one actually came privately via Jan, and he just wants a line check on this hand. So let's check it out. Okay, so this hand is from 10 no limit 6 max on PokerStars. There's a raise. Here decides to 3-bet with King Queen, and I can totally be on board with this. There are a couple situations where I'll more heavily consider flatting. I may flat here if there's a fish in the blinds, and I thought that by flatting I would induce them to continue as well, so that way I can get that fish in there. Or I may flat here if I think my post-flop edge against Love Terry is like super sick, and if I were to 3-bet they just fold a ton of the time, so it'd be more advantageous to make them go post-flop with me, beat them there, and win a lot more money, rather than just picking up their 3 big blinds pre-flop. So those are some situations where I would consider just flatting, but typically I'm going to be playing this very aggressively, and I'm okay definitely 3-betting here for sure. End up going heads up with him, go here, he decides to donk bet for 90 cents, and Hero just decides to call. So whenever this kind of situation comes up, one of the big questions I like to ask myself is, how many hands currently beat me? Now, in a situation like this, at 6 max, I'm assuming that he probably doesn't have ace-king a ton of the time. I'm assuming that probably 4-bets pre-flop, which means that I probably have the best king or a chopping king, right? So he could have king-queen, but he could most likely have like maybe a king-jack suited, maybe a king-10 suited, those kind of things. He can definitely have some second-best pairs like jacks and 10s and that kind of stuff. He could have some sets which do beat me, but there aren't a ton of combos of those. There's 3 combos of 3s, 3 combos of 6s, not super worried about that. I don't think aces are going to be in here all that often, so there aren't a ton of combos that beat me, and I don't think that many combos will beat me by the turn either. So this is the kind of situation where I may consider raising, but I'm probably just going to flat here. If I flat, I can represent that I have something like queens or ace-queen, or maybe like a jacks or 10s type hand, and maybe I can get him to try to blow me off again on the turn. I can't give him enough credit for only having hands that beat me, so folding here is out of the question. It's just, am I going to raise here? Am I going to call here? And in this situation, I think calling can definitely be valid, depends on your reads. I wish I would have gotten some information, like HUD stats for these player types when I got the hand history, but unfortunately I didn't. So I'm just doing the absolute best I can to kind of talk about everything we want to consider in these spots. So we end up going to a 4 on the turn, face another bet, and Hero just decides to call again. Okay, so when he bets again on the turn, it's another situation where I don't really think I'm going to be behind. So the 4 doesn't really change all that much. Does he really show up here with 5-7? Meh, whatever. Does he really show up here with 4-3? Meh, probably not. So I'm not really worried about hands like that, and the 4, in my opinion, just doesn't change much. What it does change is that it starts to put a 4 straight forming on the board, so the river could be a deuce, a 5, a 7, and put a 4 straight up, which is definitely something to consider. And in this situation, again, I'm still not folding, so it's just a situation of, am I going to raise or am I going to call? Now, I will heavily consider raising this if I think that he's going to overvalue flush draws that he had on the flop, backdoor flush draws that he picked up on the turn, any sort of king X that he has, and maybe he levels himself and gets too active with something like 10s. So if I think that that's the case, then I definitely just want to raise here and go for straight value. If I think this is a situation where I really just think he's messing around with like ace queen, ace jack, jack 10, or whatever random nonsense, then I'm totally on board calling, letting him barrel off rivers, and obviously giving him action on all rivers. So that would be the major thought process I'd be having here. Again, sometimes I'm going to raise, sometimes I'm going to call, but if I call, then I'm definitely going to be getting sticky on pretty much every single river, that of course being a river that I'm also going to get sticky on. So when he bets for 350, definitely going to be calling him off, but unfortunately in this exact situation he ends up waking up with top 2, which is kind of weird and awkward. Okay, so the fact that Hero lost this hand does not mean that he misplayed it, in my opinion. I think that getting sticky here at King-Queen is totally fine and valid. Again, there's certainly some validity for considering a turn raise or even a flop raise, but as played, I'm definitely not going to fault Hero here. What I am definitely going to do, though, is take a note on Love Terry. I'm going to take a note that he called my 3-bet out of position with King-8, that he decided to triple bet into me with top pair, The river, meh, whatever, not super worried about that. But the fact that he can show up with king 8 also leads me to believe that he's going to show up with things like king 9, king 10, king jack, king queen. And again, we're feeling super, super comfortable there, and definitely not going to be relinquishing our top pair. He just happened to get there this time. Not going to happen every single time in the future. So overall, I think what we did here was okay. Again, I think there's some validity for considering a raise somewhere along the line, but if you're going to take the call flop, call turn, definitely going to be calling the river as played. So Jan, thanks for the great hand, and if you or anyone else has a poker related hand or question, feel free to leave it on our Google Plus page. Leave a link for that in the description box, and also please make sure to like and subscribe if you're enjoying this type of video. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to let me know. Otherwise, good luck out there and happy grinding.